Hey everyone, my name's Catherine. Welcome to my channel. I make videos about dyeing, sewing, and upcycling. Today I'm going to be doing an ice dye video, and let's go over the supplies. First, I'm going to be using a 100% cotton t-shirt, and then I'm going to be using some plastic sheeting. I'm going to need some Elmer's blue glue, a drop cloth to keep everything tidy, an erasable marker to draw out my pattern, Procyon dye, I'm going to be using Dharma Trading dyes, a dust mask to wear when working with the dyes, soda ash, a stir stick for picking my t-shirt up out of the ice, a plastic tray to set up my ice dye, gloves to protect my hands, Synthepol for washing the t-shirt before and after, a scrub brush, and of course ice. I've listed all the links for the supplies down in the description below if you're interested in seeing where I got them. The next thing I'm going to do is start to lay out my motifs on my t-shirt, so let's get started. If you guys could hit the thumbs up button for this video, I would really appreciate it. It helps my channel so much. And if you really like dyeing, be sure to subscribe. I'm going to start with a pre-wash t-shirt just to remind you whenever you're dyeing to always pre-wash whatever you're using. And I've put a piece of plastic in between the front and back of the t-shirt. I'm going to be using glue, and if it gets onto the back, it will stick together, so I want to avoid that. I used my erasable marker to make lines across the front of the t-shirt to establish stripes. This is a quilting marker, and I use it a lot for resist dyeing. It disappears very quickly, so I usually do it one line at a time. And as you can see, I'm using the Elmer's blue glue to make the patterns. I'm just kind of winging it and making some geometric patterns as I go. I'm using a ruler just to kind of establish straight lines across and kind of measure like the middle of the t-shirt so that the motifs can kind of be centered. You can make any patterns you like. This is just what I came up with, and I think it turned out really cute. I'm a big fan of using the glue resist technique. I think it's really fun. You can get super creative. And I have a lot of different tutorials on my channel and different ideas if you want more inspiration. I'll link that playlist down in the description below. So I'm going to let this dry completely overnight. And this is the next day. You can see I'm setting up a little station for my ice dyeing. I have my plastic tray, my dyes, my ice, and my t-shirt here has been completely dried. It's a little bit crispy, which is fine. And I did not pre-soak this in soda ash for this technique. So I'm just going to scrunch it down into the tray the best that I can. It's like, kind of crunchy as you can see, but it'll soften up as I put the ice and let it melt. So I've got it in my tray now, and I am going to add my ice. I'm using about 6 to 8 cups of ice, which I just make in my freezer. So if you don't have an ice maker, you just can make some ice ahead of time and store it in a bag and just store it up while you get a little bit of reserve of ice. So I'm just going to cover the t-shirt completely with the ice. And then I'm coming in with soda ash, which is a really important step. The soda ash is a fixative that will help the dye stick to the cotton. So it's really important. I'm going to use about 2 tablespoons of soda ash, and I'm putting that on top of the ice for this project. Sometimes I like to pre-soak my items before ice dyeing. It just kind of depends on the situation. But I didn't want to soak it this time. And I'm going to be using Dharma Trading dyes. These are really great dyes. I like them a lot. I'm using eggplant, coral, pink, and amethyst. So I like to use like a little knife to add the dye, and be sure to wear your dust mask and work in a well ventilated space when you're doing this. I'm using a separate knife for each color just so I don't contaminate the dyes, because the dyes, I'll use them for a lot of other projects and I don't want everything to get mixed up. So I'm coming in with more coral pink. Coral pink is the lightest, so I always like to start with the lightest color, just kind of personal preference. And I'm coming in with a little more amethyst. And then eggplant is the most powerful. So I'm going to do just tiny bits of eggplant, so I get a little bit of dimension in this pattern. I don't want it to overpower the other colors. And a little more amethyst, just for good measure. So you can see I didn't use that much dye. It really starts to spread out quickly. And as the ice melts, it will drip down onto the t-shirt. I'm just going to let this sit for about 24 hours.
All right, so it's been a few hours and I just pushed all the edges down into the water, the dye, and the ice combination. So I'm just going to come around and put a little bit of dye on the edges just to make sure like that they don't have white edges, because I think that would look kind of bizarre. So I'm going to kind of just come in and add a little bit of color on this part, and we'll just see how it goes. Not a lot, just a little bit, so it looks kind of like the edges weren't left out. Maybe a little over here. Okay, that's the amethyst. It's really pretty. All right, so I'll keep letting this melt, and yeah, we'll check back in the morning. All right, it's next morning, guys. Let's see here. Looks pretty fun. All right, so I'm going to rinse this now and just keep it soaking to get the glue softening. But it looks like there's some resist, so that's great. All right, I'm gonna take it to the sink.
So I'm going to rinse it. I'm dumping out the dye, and I'm gonna rinse it with cold until the water runs pretty clear. I mean, as clear as it can get. Sometimes with these red colors, it gets a little bit, it takes a long time to get clear, but I like to use the tray just to try to save water. See, it's getting more clear now, and I'm just going to keep rinsing it. This is hot water now. That's going to really soften up that glue, and I'm adding a squirt of Synthepol just to kind of remove any excess dye. Synthepol is also known as dyer's detergent, and I've linked it down in the description below. You can see how the resist turned out. It will be more white after I scrub it and wash and dry it. So I let this soak for another day, and I'm coming in now with a scrub brush, and I'm just going to really scrub it. You don't have to wait a whole day probably, but you can see how much resist there is after it's been soaking. It's a really nice, cute pattern. Unfortunately, I can't believe it, but I totally forgot to get a good photo of it. It was a present and I was in a rush to get it done, and I also had a leak in my bathroom. So this was just a really crazy week. I'm really sorry. If you guys are interested in ice dyeing or other kinds of dyeing, be sure to check out my channel for more inspiration and tutorials. I also teach a live online class, and I have multiple Skillshare classes available. So I'm just going to keep scrubbing, and I'll probably soak it for an hour or two after scrubbing just to make sure the glue all comes off. And then I'm going to wash and dry it in my washer. I like to wash it on hot with Synthropol and then dry it on high. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of extra soaking and scrubbing to get the glue off, but this one got a really nice resist with nice crisp white lines, which is really exciting. You can see the water is like basically clear. At this point, I'm just trying to get the excess glue off, and all the excess dye is pretty much come out, which is great. So like I said, I totally forgot to get before and after shots, but you can see in this screenshot the resist of the shirt and the patterning with this color combination. It will lighten up a little bit with drying, but I thought it turned out really cool, and I love the idea of this sort of stripe pattern. So anyway, let me know what you think in the comments, and thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Be sure to go to my social medias and follow me at Onyx Art Studios. And you can check out my online workshops at my website, onyxartstudio.com. All right, see you guys next time. If you're looking for some more ice dyeing tutorials or glue resist dyeing tutorials, be sure to check out these playlists here. All right, thank you.